Hello, everyone. My name is Allison Howard, and I am thrilled to co-lead the new sleep initiative at the Global Wellness Institute, together with my colleague Francisco Levine. We are kicking off our series of interviews today with experts in the sleep space. And today I'm so excited that we have Nick Littlehales with us. Nick is an elite sports sleep coach and the author of the book Sleep. He's got a very interesting background and perspective on sleep. So we're all really looking forward to what you have to say, Nick.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you, Nick. It is very exciting to have you. I think it'd be very useful for everyone if you could share a bit about the story, how you got into the sleep business.
Well, I absolutely loved sports as a teenager, like many people do. I was trying to become a professional athlete, but that was way back in the late 70s, early 80s. I got married into a family furniture business. So I literally just had to pay the bills to bring up a family. And I ended up working for a sleeping comfort group, a mattress company. And I think, you know, my drive and determination to be an elite sports person is quite a lonely place. You have lots of things around that whole aspect of wanting to be independent and drive forward. So I could do nothing more than apply that to the industry I was in. I had no interest in it whatsoever. It was paying bills. I think I shot through the ranks to become the sales and marketing director of that company internationally very quickly. I also collaborated with a few people to set up the very first UK Sleep Council in the UK and was chairman of that for a while. And then I probably had a little bit of a midlife crisis in my early 40s when I just thought, I'm in an industry that takes sleep for granted. It's not a performance criteria, and it's a massive health killer, but nobody really cares about it. So I was wandering off to do something else, but I happened to bump into elite sport. My office in the UK was in the northwest of England, and the local football team happened to be Manchester United. And by some strange circumstances, I ended up having some conversations with them. And I started to generate my experience and knowledge, my probably a bit maverick approach to why there was no definitive approach to sleep. It was just get your 8 hours and suck it and see sort of thing. And because all of the people within the club, coaches and players, they're all sleepers and humans just like anybody else, but they're all looking at recovery and performance. And it was a very new era then back in the late 90s, a couple of decades ago now. And so we started to look and have conversations, create dialogue. Certain things were starting to change. We had a very open-minded manager called Sir Alex Ferguson at the time, who seemed to say, well, if we know nothing about this, why not go into that journey, that space? And there was lots of things happening. And all the time I was able to sort of bring my knowledge into those particular areas. And then that moved on into other top flight premiership clubs, national teams, and then into big European championships with national teams, and then with British Cycling and Team Sky in 2008, looking at the aggregation of marginal gains. So they brought me in to look at sleep, because you can't look at the aggregation of marginal gains without looking at sleep. That sort of culminated in London 2012 Olympics, when British Cycling, male and female, track and road, just absolutely smashed world records and everything. So sleep started to become the thing that nobody used to talk about: nutrition, performance, equipment, but nobody talked about recovery and sleep. So they kind of became interesting in this other area that nobody was looking at, but British Cycling and Team Sky were. Move it on to today, and sleep is a really important factor. There's lots of sleep coaches around. There's lots of people writing books about the importance of sleep, and there's certainly a new dynamic about the world that we live in over the last 2 decades, a paradigm shift, because I was coaching without phones and without laptops and without social media and all that sort of stuff. So I think I sort of felt in my own space that there wasn't a definitive approach. Could I create one? I didn't really intentionally to do that, but that's possibly what I've done. is over those years, you're able to define an approach that allows any human being to optimize their human recovery performance and just change those little aspects. And it was only one day when I woke up and read the press, and the media had just said that these top flight elite players, footballers, had got somebody coaching them about sleep. So my title way back in late 90s was, obviously I'm a sports sleep coach. Didn't even know what that meant. There was no such thing out there. Nobody was even talking about it. So I basically just molded myself into that role, and here we are many decades later.
That is such a great story, Nick. Thank you so much for sharing that. You are truly a trailblazer, and it's really so awesome to speak to you today. I also love the fact that this whole concept of sleep as a performance enhancer was almost hidden in plain sight, right? Like it was always there, but really connecting those things is truly to your credit. So that's super exciting. And as you said, I think today we are so much more aware of the connection between sleep and physical health and mental health and performance in whatever our pursuits are. In all of your experience, Nick, what is one thing, if you wanted to tell someone one thing to help them get more out of their sleep or maximize their sleep, what is one thing that you would counsel people to do?
You're gonna hate my answer to this because it encapsulates a number of things, but it is one thing. The one thing anybody needs to do is understand that parents don't educate children about this natural recovery process. The educational system doesn't do anything to look at it or even concentrate on it. So basically, the first point is that we are human beings with brains and bodily functions. There is a very natural thing going on every day called the sun going around our planet. And these two factors will never change. Human behavior continues to change and challenge those things. So once you understand that being a little bit more synchronized with a process that's going on all around you, that creates your ability to recover and be active and to protect yourself and to reveal your personal best. And also sleep is a very natural process. So if you get into a place where you're trying to force it to happen or make it happen or just expect it to happen, no, you can just raising your awareness, just catching up on some education that you should have is the key to it. Now, I know you're going to say, how do I do that? But there's a lot more information around. There's my book, there's lots of stuff, there's lots of people putting out. Just spend a little bit of time. We know how important this thing is, but start to remember there's certain things that you should have looked at. The fact that before human beings invented electric light, human beings always slept in a polyphasic manner, which is a multiphasic way. They never tried to sleep in one block just at night. They were so much more attuned to that process. So that's a great place to start. Understanding that the sun going around our planet creates light, dark, and temperature shifts, and they create hormones to be produced that makes you function in a very natural way. So your relationship with that is very specific. And then you can think about, sleep. Probably everybody's perception of it is a bit, taken for granted. Do I sleep well? I'm still going to get up and get on with my day. And you said, well, let's try and put that descriptive to one side, redefine a little bit. And one of the great ways is that if you ever got into a sleep clinic and they were tracking your brainwave patterns and looking at all of the processes, they would look at it in a 90-minute cycle. And then they'd benchmark it against another 90-minute cycle. So the one way we sort of redefined somebody's approach very quickly was to think about your 24-hour process in 90-minute cycles, blocks of 90-minute cycles, little controlled recovery periods every 90 minutes, consistent wake time, because that's like sunrise. That's a great way to help your brain start that process. And even though it's not snoozers for losers and nappers and things like that, but little controlled recovery periods and cycles in a more polyphasic way has been the absolute key to success in sport. So it's always a great place to start. with find your most consistent wake time, chop your 24 hours up into 90-minute cycles, you'll get 16 stages and 4 phases of that clock. And stop worrying about how you're going to sleep on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Sunday. You start just having a technique in your back pocket that just reveals this so naturally.
It's really brilliant, and I think really revolutionary. I mean, I had, before you, hadn't heard anyone talking about sleep that way in increments, which is, again, so fascinating, and also so important and potentially impactful in our very busy lives that we lead today.
Yeah, I think it was sort of one of those things that, you know, it's sort of the myth of 8 hours. It's not the myth of 8 hours. You know, we have to have a level of recovery as human beings within this whole process. But if you're talking to humans all over this planet, in different hemispheres, in different temperatures, in different time zones, you're looking at pilots, nurses, and surgeons, and workers, and parents, and you say, well, why do they ignore this advice? Because it's not practical to actually apply it, so they ignore it. So isn't there another way that they will take that advice and they will be able to reveal it? Then maybe that was what always fascinated me.
Mm-hmm.
So one angle that we're trying to explore and make more practical in our initiative is how do we bring these learnings into the room environment, the hotel guest room, or your room at home. What should we what can we do in terms of improving our sleep performance when we think about how to set up our room and a hotel guest room? What comes to you as, I mean, your whole explanation is to some degree going back to basics now.
Absolutely. You know, I'm not academically qualified to be talking about sleep and sleep science. I'm certainly not an expert or sleep clinician in this world, or neurologist or whatever, but it was, you know, I have been studying it for all of my life and listening to professors of sleep and how other people sleep. And I think it was when I got engaged with British Cycling in 2008-9, and we wandered along this little journey of these sort of the R90 technique, chopping up into cycles. Then we looked at what we classified as the 7 key sleep recovery indicators: circadian rhythms, chronotypes, sleeping in cycles, pre and post routines, which are key, a much more balanced approach to mental and physical activity and mental and physical activity recovery. Recovery activities are just as important. Then we looked at number 6, which was environment, and then number 7, which was about the products we choose to sleep on and with, which differs all over the world. So when it comes to the environment, we just thought, you know, here we are, we've got a big thing like a Tour de France cycling thing on the road for 3 weeks. Absolute recovery is absolutely key. So we went down that journey. When we got to number 7, we just went, well, if we try to find things that would trigger recovery in their homes as part of this process, if we can take some of those things with us when we're going away for 3 weeks with different hotels, recovery is just unbelievable, mentally and physically. Then why are we just wandering into these hotels where somebody else has been in there the night before? We're not even thinking about them. They're just on the journey around France. And you just went, hang on a minute, surely. And the key things that came up to us was there are certain things within the environment. And it's about bringing the outside in. You know, when we think about circadian rhythms, it's not about bringing the cold and the wet and all that sort of stuff. But the whole aspect of when we're outside camping or mountaineering or everything, we get totally attuned with these circadian rhythms and we just feel so much happier. So it's kind of like if you took everything out of that bedroom in your head, because we all have to sleep in different places. But if you took everything out of your head and you only put back into that room things that were obviously key triggers, familiarization, colors, noise, sound, light, things like that, that really gives the brain the opportunity to take you into a sleep state, because it then takes control. and to be able to deliver those sleep stages that are so important, not only when you're in your home, but when you're away. And that was absolutely key, is finding these little things that you can take with you or think about. That I think most research tells us that if you move into a different environment, the first 48 hours, your recovery could be reduced by up to 40%. And that's just because the brain is trying to adapt itself to a different environment, different smells, different colors, noises, and everything else. So the more you can put in your little sleep kit and take with you to try and familiarize that environment so your brain's happier, is it just because you've booked a hotel room, just because you've booked that room, just because somebody else has set it up, it doesn't mean to say that you're going to recover well in it. You need tiny little things. And that's where it was almost a bit, really? Is that going to make a difference? If we took that pillow spray or that same perfume that their partner wears at home, or that same washing powder on the linen, or take a pillowcase, or should we anti-bac, take some wipes and clean all the surfaces, because the people who are in there before might leave a virus behind, and we don't want that coming along in 3 weeks' time or the following day, do we? And it sort of went, right. And that mattress and that pillow was not designed for me. So can I add something to it? And eventually it became a real sort of familiarization, visualization, little tiny things that create that sort of vacant mind space, makes that environment. Because what we very much understand is that it's what you do is about helping your brain to then take over and help you sleep. You're not doing this. You're not in control of it. It's the little things that you do that allows the brain to take over and maximize your recovery.
That's so fascinating. And you threw out a couple little hints, but can you be just a bit more specific, Nick? Like, what would an elite athlete have in their sleep kit?
Well, it can go to the extreme. There's a lot more people do it, but I think it all depends on certain circumstances. But what we would do is go into their home and we tick all the boxes, like, blackout, light, temperature, noise. We'd also we take the physical profile of the athlete. So we want them sleeping on the opposite side to their dominant side, because it protects the heart and the genitals. It also reveals the stronger parts of your body, your arms and legs, to protect yourself, because that's just recreating what would happen when you were outside as human beings on our journey. So fetal side, that means the opposite side is less sensitive. So you can lie on that side, but it's great for the brain. So then we'd look at the sort of mattress and everything else that they've got in place, and we create layers, because layers are great. We love layers in sport. And we'd layer it up so that we get this full release, opposite side to dominant side in a fetal position, so they can sleep in that position longer and move around like that. We looked at the linen and created linen that's antibacterial, hypoallergenic, quick wash, all sorts of things, because we were identifying things that, when you put fresh linen on your bed, strangely enough, for a lot of people, I'm included, I kind of think, I want to get in that. And it's cool and it's fresh. Sleep's all about warm to cool. And we sort of think, I'm going to sleep well tonight. But then we leave the linen for 2 weeks or a week. And you just go, why don't we have fresh linen every night? So we sort of bring those out. We put those into a travel kit, little single layers of all those layers. So the athlete is completely familiar with it, knows that they're going to maximize their recovery, whether they sleep well or not during the tour. Is not the point, is are we maximizing their recovery? So we put it in a little kit bag. We'd also put in their pillow spray, because they've been familiar with that, smells. We would also get them to identify little things. You shouldn't have asked me this question, by the way, but we identify little things that creates a feeling of calm. So, things have moved on, but even back then, we would get them to, if they've got children, to record them reading a bedtime story to their children on their phone. And then when they're in the hotel room, to create a little bit of familiarization from that sort of sensory side, they would just listen to that. And immediately, wherever they are in the world, whatever hotel, whether in a city or the suburbs or the countryside, they could immediately just shift in that sort of mind space way into being in that lovely dark room with the lamp and their children just listening to those wonderful things. And it creates that little space. And like I said, you know, it's so we started off using the mattresses in the hotel to put toppers on and things like that. Then we just went, we don't want to even use that at all, because there are some things about the athlete that they like to face the window or face the door or face this way around. And in a fetal position on the opposite side to the dominant side, in their home, they would be facing the door or the window. Well, if the hotel room, the bed's there and it's fixed, and if they sleep in that position, they're facing the other way, then they're going to, it's a barrier. So let's just forget all of that. We'll put it all into a kit. We created this big holdall, put it on your back, wander into the hotel, plonk it down on the floor, unzip it, layers, fetal position, bang. We'd take, you know, I don't know whether this translates everywhere, but we have things called black plastic bin liners in rolls, you know, to put your rubbish in a plastic roll bag. So we take that and some black tape, just simple little things. So we were able to take the light out of the hotel room using black bags and putting little black tape on standby lights on the TVs, because they always put them right in front of the bed and nobody gets up to switch them off. And it just, and then we're even taking, you know, handheld, excuse them, there's lots of other good vacuum cleaners in the world, but we were taking handheld Dyson cleaners, high powered, just to take all the, you know, the other atmosphere. We were even putting high particle filters, air filters in the room for an hour to drag all the pollutants in the air out, because nasal breathing and nose breathing is really critical for getting those deeper sleep stages. And we don't want people mouth breathing and stuff. So we just went on a journey of going, why are we putting elite athletes in a room where we have no control over everything? Well, let's just, can we change the hotel? No. What we can do is take things with us practically and make that environment as familiar as possible to that athlete. So they go in, recover, come out, and then we take it all along to the next hotel room. So whilst they're actually in their daily performance as cyclists, but it's just like in daily life, their mindset was, I don't mind going into that room because it's set up for me. And I want to go in there and sleep, and the brain's the same. But I think there's all little things, you know, from dawn wake simulators, people might know. We were just trying to recreate sunrise using these lamps with 10,000 lux. And so we could have all the windows shut because it might be a different time zone. The sunrise is at different times and their chronotypes and stuff. So we'd use the lamp to recreate sunrise, even if they're in a dark room, to start that process of serotonin activity and building, you know. And, you know, I could go on for a long time, but those are some of the things.
No, that's so fascinating. And you saw tangible performance improvements from taking all those actions, correct?
Yeah, because technology was moving on. So, you know, always had, you know, in sport, if you can't measure it, you don't do it, sort of thing. But it was kind of like, why did they get me involved rather than the clinical side and the academic side of sleep? Is because they wanted practical marginal gains, 1% factors. And that's where I came in. So we thought about measuring it, you know, using ActiWatches and wristbands, and are we getting better sleep quality? And then we just decided no, because what we don't want to do is start creating another level of data, right? That means if the rider wakes up and the data is sort of kind of indicating that they didn't sleep well, they've still got to go and do 200 kilometers, right? So it's kind of like the whole measurement process was, does that make sense? Yeah. Does that make sense? Yeah. Have we sorted their rooms out at home? Yes. Are we taking some of that stuff with us? Yes. Are we doing something about it? Yes. So strangely enough, while the riders were going through all our activities every day, whereas before you'd notice them come off the back of a big stage and they're going to the masseurs and they're having meetings and they're trying to fuel up and hydrate, it was almost like they were creating more space, because going up into that bedroom where somebody else was sleeping in there last night and it's not their room and it's not their place, it was sort of like going to bed was not a you know, they're tired and they want to recover, but it was sort of like, do I have to do it in there? Right? And what changed really quickly was they were already very positive. They start the day, they know that that sleep kit's going to be in that room, set up when they get to the other end. So they do the massage, eat the food, do the meeting, go upstairs, get in, climb into their kit. The room's been set up, bang. I can't wait for tomorrow. So they kind of, I wouldn't suggest they looked happier, you know, that's a difficult, but you could see that their behavior was changing and they were actually enjoying the recovery. And then I suppose the ultimate thing was they started to win. And as a team, they started to win. And that was unheard of because it'd never been done before, particularly with British cycling teams. And that sort of indicated that, wow, you know, the team was able to go through a whole sort of 3-week period and they were all more fresh mentally and physically by the time they get to the key stages and the key points, and they were able to take everybody over the line where other teams started to suffer. So, of course, you know, success is always the key factor to success. But along that route, we decided we're not going to measure this. We're not going to measure it because it's just too good as it is.
Yeah, but I think correlating those steps to that outcome that you wanted, which is winning, that's awesome measurement.
Yeah,
I think
that was the bonus.
So clearly there was a very elaborate process there for these athletes, and lots of resources went into making sure they could maximize their recovery. What advice would you give to a corporate traveler? You know, just a professional who is, you know, needing to jet set around the world for their job, who probably can't carry their bed on their back while they're doing that.
No, of course not. But I think, and I work with a lot of individual athletes and organizations who don't have those wealthy budgets to even think like it. But you can do these practical things. So if you wander through those key sleep recovery indicators, ticking your little boxes, finding practical ways to make your changes, work with your chronotype better, learn more about circadian rhythms and light and things and pre-sleep. What you'll do is you're able to find those little things, right? Now, I found one for somebody. I went into their bedroom and underneath the bed where they sleep, there was this little sort of teddy bear, right? Absolutely tattered and torn, right? And I just went, is that your little comfort blanket? He said, yes, that's what I got when I was a little child. I said, so it's under your bed there? And he said, yeah, when I go to sleep, I just pull it up and I just play with it, right? Okay, well, that's good, isn't it? Yeah, it's just a little tiny little thing that's been around with me a long time. I said, well, why don't you take that to the event when you travel away? He said, well, I can't do that because people will think that I'm, you know, I'm not a strong male or whatever. I said, well, put it in your bag. At least if it's in your bag, it's there and you know it's there. So I think, you know, everybody can find little things that helps familiarization, sound, noise, white noise, little things. Maybe even just take their pillow with them. You know, they can fold it up into their luggage. The pillowcase with the smell of their washing powder or gel that just creates familiarity and protects you from those grotty pillows that are full of all sorts of stuff, whatever type of. And you can think about that. And you can think about some little wipes to wipe things down. You can think about taking some, you know, black bin liners or something more better these days. And also, you know, silly little things, but I'd seen it, so it's not silly. So if the athlete at home sleeps, you know, if they're at the foot end of the bed because they've got a partner, if they sleep on the right-hand side of the bed because, you know, they're right-handed, so they want to sleep on their left side because it's the opposite side. And when they turn away from their partner, because although we love each other and all that sort of stuff, and the sex and security and everything else, we turn away from each other as human beings because we're not really designed to sleep with other humans. You know, it's not. So we like to create our own little space. So when they go into the hotel room and there's the bed, then we want them to sleep on the same side. But we want them to feel, because normally they've got a partner with them. So suddenly you're in a hotel and there's no partner there. So can we take the partner with them a little bit through smells and familiarization, like the kids reading books, you know? So we asked the hotel for some more pillows to put them under the duvet next to the person, so that the brain kind of thinks the partner's there, because I can kind of smell them and they're there. So it kind of makes them sleep in exactly the same way that they do at home, you know? And it's sort of, I think anybody can just have a look. That's why I said before, you know, take everything out of your bedroom at home, you know, because we all have to sleep, you know, in all different environments. Sometimes we choose the place to sleep. Sometimes we have to sleep in a certain place. I think you always imagine that as human beings, I coach people to sleep anywhere, anytime, on anything. I have to, because that's what they do, right? So it's kind of, the technique allows you to do that. And when it comes to your environment and things like that, you're just looking for those little barriers that will always make it a little bit more complicated. But I have to say that over those couple of decades, hotels have really been upping their game, because, you know, people like me and teams and football clubs and organizations and NFL teams, NBA, they're coming to these hotels with lots more interventions that they're bringing with them. So the hotels are going, hang on a minute, we need to up our game. So you do see there's a lot more availability to different products when you check in at hotels. You can have different types of pillows, different types of duvets. They really are thinking about, you know, creating better recovery rooms, because that's what we're there to do. So I think I would always advise somebody, don't just book a hotel because it's next to the conference center. Think about it, because we do this in sport. There might be a hotel, maybe a kilometer away or a mile away, that would allow you to create more familiarization. So your recovery is going to be better. So you'll enjoy your conference and be more productive. So you can actually do, with a little bit more research, select hotels that maybe have different products you can choose from, more open to bring things in. And certainly I've seen, you know, hotel concepts and been involved with consulting on them, where you've got circadian lighting in the rooms. You've got all sorts of fantastic things going on, where even you can, you know, use apps and everything else to adjust the products. And so it's almost like you're sleeping on your own product, because it just does it through the cloud. It's just amazing stuff. So, you know, whatever it is, don't just book a hotel and go in there and spend your money and invest on it. The only reason you're booking that hotel, for a lot of people, whether it's a holiday or a business or elite athlete, is to perform and smash it the following day or the day after. That's what it's about. So don't just think that you can recover well in an environment that you're not even giving any interest to. So
yeah, again, I mean, sleep, it seems like it should be so fundamental and so easy, but it's not always. And what I'm really hearing from you today is just the role that our brain plays, that we can't, you know, sort of will it to happen, that our brain kind of takes over. And I think that's really just such a great aha moment.
well, I think it's you know, because you're coaching all different types of people with different levels of intelligence and different demographics and different people all over the world with different cultures, you can't just get your 8 hours on somebody, you know, you can't just do it. So it was always like, and particularly with the younger athletes, it's sort of, you're trying to change their perception of what they've been taught is just go to bed and see you in the morning, get a good night's sleep. And you're trying to change it. So Cycles tries to change it. You know, my 5 cycle routine, 5 90-minute cycles is 7.5 hours. There's your 8. I get 4 cycles at night and 6 hours in one block. And then I put another little 30-minute cycle in late afternoon, because I'm a morning chronotype. Wow. What are you trying to achieve? 35 cycles in a week. Best 5 a day you're ever going to do. Oh, cool. Can we look at that? Yeah. Bang, 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 bang. Control recovery periods, little tiny ones, getting those things back. And it's kind of like an imaginary friend called your brain. And you just ask your brain some very simple, basic human questions. Would you like a consistent start to your day? And your brain will say, absolutely, because I'm designed to wake with the sun. That happens every morning, right? Would you like a good start to the day? Yeah, I need loads of daylight stuff, you know, blue energy wave, 10,000 lux. You try and start our day in a blackout room without any light, we're just going to be dragging ourselves into the world. Bowel and bladder, mental challenges, loads of light, hydrating my brain. Yeah, I want all of this. Do you want little breaks every 90 minutes? Yeah, because if you just keep pointing me in the same direction, that's all I process. Point me in a different direction for a couple of minutes and I'll process that. It's like wandering down and sitting on a bench or sitting by the, you know, just, that's great. It's all part of our journey towards when you want this nocturnal sleep. Give me a little 30-minute cycle, midday or early evening. It's what I naturally do. And if I want to put you asleep, I will, and I'll let you know it's coming. But don't you try and do it. I will let you know. You just create it, whether we sleep or not, right? Because I can put you asleep behind the wheel of a car or a truck on an autobahn or motorway. Now that means you're not in control of this. I am. So you just create the space, vacant mind space. Don't even try and sleep. Take advantage. Take the pressure off phase 3, the evening. You know, you've got the lights on and everything else, and you're rushing around. You want to go to the gym. You want to email. You want to social media. Well, don't try and force us to go to sleep too early, because just let's get it balanced. Take the pressure off. And we might go to sleep a little bit later, but then I'll take you through those 4 cycles in 6 hours without any disturbances, not waking up to go to the toilet, get all the deep sleep stuff. So let's take the pressure off. You need to create melatonin, right? So you need to use blue blocker glasses, or you need to use candlelight or amber light or red light. You can still be active, but please put me in that melatonin world, because otherwise I'm going to struggle. And then when you let me take over, I'll give you the most consistent, sustainable levels of human, mental, and physical recovery that I possibly can. And as long as we keep doing that every day in a 24-hour rolling process, I don't think about Monday or Sunday. I don't think about anything. Your behavior allows me to reveal your natural recovery process. You don't have to try and force it. You don't have to try and make it happen. And the big thing you want to do is don't worry about it, because that's the biggest disruptor you can possibly get. Take that away, and we're going to go on an amazing recovery journey that you probably have never ever experienced before in your life.
That's great. I think that on that note, it's a very good moment to wrap it up here. And it's been fantastic, Nick, to have the opportunity to speak with you and listen to all your recommendations and experiences and insights. I think that I couldn't agree more that this idea of creating more awareness around sleep is the key driver, because there's so much information and insights around. We just need to get to work. And I thought it was super interesting, this idea of familiarization, where hotels that do strive to personalize the travel experience, now with this call for personalization that can also help sleep beyond everything around bringing the outside in, which I think it's also a great concept. So that sets the stage for us to continue working with hotels. We really appreciate your time. This has been super interesting.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Nick. Maybe just very quickly, if folks are interested in learning more about you and your philosophy, obviously they can buy your book. Is there any other resources that you could point interested listeners to?
Well, the book is also available in Audible, which I actually narrated myself as the author, which is quite unusual. So if you don't like reading books, it is also available in over 16 languages. So there's no barriers to that, however you want to do it. But I think sportsleepcoach.com is my website. There's little Audible courses on there where you can just have a little 10-session lesson, low-cost intervention. We produce loads of content for social media, which is not just, oh, yada, yada, yada. It's actually great free content about everything you've listened to today, and blog posts and videos and TED Talks. You can access all of that sort of stuff, or you can even, you know, I think one of those things is it's not in our DNA to go to a sleep clinic or go to the GP and talk about sleep, or you really have to get right to the you know, the real problems where you cannot function, right, before you start thinking about it. But you'll go to personal trainers, you'll go to nutritionists, you'll go to mind coaches, you'll do all of that stuff, and yoga and Pilates and everything, all this stuff to go. And I just think that, you know, I tried and maybe have redefined what it is. The next generation should take that on and redefine it again, right? Because the challenges aren't going backwards. You know, we should be the healthiest, most fittest, knowledge human population that's ever been on the planet. But there's too much indication there that we're struggling a little, and being more synchronized with this natural process is key. So I think anybody who sort of gets any inspiration is that out there is a little secret called redefining your approach. And if you take the step and even have a personal consultation with me, for example, that takes nothing more than 60 minutes. And what people say, 60 minutes, filled out a profile, paid you a little bit of money, not much compared to other things in my life. And now I've got something in my back pocket that I wished I had a long time ago. Completely paradigm shifts my whole approach. I feel so much better. And it's not only for that, but it's for the rest of my life, because this process is not going to change. Right? What we've been talking about today is not going to change. Whatever challenge comes along, pandemics or Olympics or kids coming along, nothing's going to change. Sun going around the planet, you're a human being, bodily functions, bang. That ain't going to change. So once you've got that technique in your back pocket, now you're off.
That's brilliant. Well, thank you again so much, Nick. We'll be sure to link to your site in our notes. Thank you again.
No problem at all. Thank you very much for having me.